FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
The problem is, if Americans buy all this stuff, we send all the dollars over there to pay for it. What are the Chinese going to do with all the dollars? They're economic. They can't buy stuff in the United States. They don't want to, but they couldn't handle it anyway. No point in buying all the equipment. They can't. They don't have the people to run it. They don't have the projects to. So they accumulated dollars. What are they going to do with the dollars? And they came up with a brilliant solution. They lent the dollars back to the United States to enable the United States government and its people to buy the Chinese junk. And it's important for you to understand it, because you know what this is? This is a replay in reverse of a game the United States played at the end of World War II called the Marshall Plan. At the end of World War II, the United States had a big problem. We had just come out of a Great Depression followed by a war. The great fear in 1945 was that we would fall back into the Depression. It was only the war that got us out. So at the end of the war, what do we got? All those soldiers taking off their uniform. They don't need it anymore. And they don't need a gun anymore. They don't need bullets. They don't need planes. Because the war is over. Oh my goodness. These now demobilized soldiers, together with all the people losing their jobs in the munitions factories, they're going to be on it. What are we going to do to keep them working? That was the great anxiety, 1945-46 in America. One of the solutions, there were several. By the way, the solutions are really interesting for those of you interested in the United States, because we were in such a mess then, we did things that you couldn't dream of today. We passed something called the GI Bill of Rights. You know what it did? In 1945, the United States government said to every returning soldier, we will pay for you to go to college, all the costs. End of story. And they did. Today, that would be considered to be an irresponsible act of fiscal poor judgment. Well, we had to do that. You know why? We didn't want those soldiers looking for work because there was no work. We wanted them in school. The second thing we did is we said, okay, we've just finished a war. Europe is completely smashed. They want to rebuild. Good. We'll sell them the stuff, the tractors, the machines to rebuild. And that'll give us work in America to make that stuff. The Europeans said, great, we want to rebuild, but we got a problem. You have no money. No problem, said the United States. We'll lend you the money. We'll lend you the money so that you can buy our goods. And that's exactly what the Chinese did. They lent us the money so we could buy their goods. And so here we are in 2010, and what have we got? The Chinese have industrialized their country in 2 or 3 decades. Stunning. World has never seen that before. Hundreds of millions of people brought into an industrial base. But they're completely dependent on exports. Completely. Number 2, they've accumulated so many dollars that even though they've lent them to us, they are now the largest creditor of the United States. Our government owes the People's Republic of China somewhere in the neighborhood, public and private debt, of $1.5 trillion. By the way, just a footnote for you to think about. At about 4% interest, that means that we as a people, you, are paying taxes to Washington, $60 billion a year of which is delivered as an interest payment to help the People's Republic of China modernize the Red Army. So on behalf of the People's Republic of China, I wish to tell you, thank you. Thank you so very much. If that strikes you as bizarre, that's just one index. We owe them big time. We need them big time. You know why we need them? Because the entire structure of our economy now depends on cheap goods for Americans purchased at Walmart. Imagine what employers would face by the working class here if we said, no more Chinese goods. Oh, good. Instead of a shirt for $9 that you can get in Walmart, you're going to spend $40 at another store because it's made in the good old USA. Our industries depend on low wages that can only survive in a regime of cheap products. And China is the number one producer of cheap products in the world. Nobody else gets close. So yes, we now have a situation in which we depend on the Chinese. They have been crucial to the whole story we've told here. To get the richness of it, the United States government is fighting 3 wars: Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, that we know of. Who knows? But at least 3. Those wars are not paid for by taxes because they're already unpopular. It would be impossible to continue. So the money has to be borrowed. Who are we borrowing it from? The People's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China is opposed to the American presence in all of those countries. It finances that presence that it opposes. Contradictions. When an economy is caught up in these kinds of contradictions, one of the lessons is don't imagine that this is under control. The notion that this is all being worked out and that Mr. Bernanke or somebody else has got this under control, that may flatter these folks and it may pander to the PR firms they hire. It is not the case.